Thank you, Mary. I appreciate Mary Clark started our meeting this morning with such great choices in songs, freely, freely. I just appreciate that in every selection. Thank you, Mary. We are going to introduce the people who are in the meeting house this morning. I'm going to change the camera again. This morning, we have with us Ellen Craig. And just so you all know, that's her high school letter jacket. So
Number jacket.
It's her class jacket. So we're impressed, Ellen. It's good. And Kent's sitting here rolling his eyes. Her son, Kent, from Goshen, Indiana, is here. Welcome, Kent. We're glad to have you here today. We have Gage Stemmer, who is with us. Thank you for being here. Also, Cleo and Diana McFarland and Eileen Critch, thank you for being here. We have Tom Harold and Jim Wells. It's good to see you guys. On the next side at the back, we have Rob and Val Pearson. They are here with us, and also Brian Lilly. We have Dennis Engel and Doug and Kathy Simmons. And we have Nita Burton and Shirley Erdl and Kendra Holliger. It's good to see you in person. Yay! She's usually on Zoom from Richmond, so it is nice to have you here. We also have Dave Longnecker, and in front of him is Marcia Holliger and Norman Karen Peters and Al and Linda Groth and Brian and Melissa Thomas. So, and also Ron and I and Mary Clark. So those are the people that are here in person. And on Zoom this morning we have, okay, let's get this right. On Zoom this morning we have Delmer and Dwight Ferguson from Overland Park, Kansas. Yay, it's good to see you guys. They are actually in a new room. Delmer had a move this week, and he is all set up, ready to go, thanks to Dwight and Rhonda and Sam. So we're thankful that you are in your new room today and that you're on Zoom. We also have Lois Hogue with us from Sarasota, Florida, and she said that things are getting a little bit better, but things are good around her house, so that's the good news. Thank you, Lois, for being here. We have Cliff Painter from Calaveras County, California. Thank you once again, Cliff, for getting up early. We appreciate it. It's good to see your face. And then we have Bill and Joyce Wagner from Muncie, Indiana. It's good to see you guys this morning. We have Teresa Wallace and Kenny Girton from here in Winchester. It's good to see you. We have Nate and, oh, there I see Nate. I had Becky there too. Nate and Becky Edmonds from Westminster in Muncie, Indiana. It is good to see you guys this morning. Becky is there getting rehab, so we're happy to have you here this morning. We also have Angela Ferguson from her home in Raytown, Missouri. Welcome, Angela. We have Nancy Wolf from Greenfield, Indiana. Welcome, Nancy. It's good to see you this morning. We have Betty Locke from her home at Summers Point here in Winchester. Welcome, Betty. And Susan Simons from your home here in Winchester. I'd like to see you in person, but it's good to see you on Zoom. We have Jeff Clark from his home here in Winchester, too. I'd like to see you in person, too, sometime. So, two. Oh, you've got two people there? No, peace. Okay. I don't know what Jeff's talking about. Thanks, Jeff. We have Terry and Sharon Reinard, who are with us from their home here in Winchester. Welcome, Terry and Sharon. And also Stan and Gretchen Hendrickson from their home here in Winchester. Welcome. It's good to see Valerie Boyd from Wichita, Kansas in her home. And Charlie is at her house, I think, but we're hoping that he's doing better. It's nice to have you guys all here. Thank you for being here. J.C. Craig, it's good to see you this morning. Welcome, welcome from Tacoma Park, Maryland. We have the whole Craig family here today, which is nice. Tony and Marcia Critch from here in Winchester. Welcome, Tony and Marcia. And I think Tony finished harvest, and I assume that Al finished harvest too. So our farmers are done for the season. I think Tony said it's probably the earliest he's ever been done, and I think for you too. So this has been quite the harvest season, and we're thankful it's over and thankful that there were no major accidents. So that's great news. Rhonda and Sam Schofield from their home in Overland Park, Kansas. It's good to see you this morning. We have Janet Ross from her home here in Winchester, and Suzanne Weber from her home here in Winchester, and Michelle Lilly from her home in Lynn, Indiana. So those are the people that have gathered this morning, and we are grateful to see each one of you. Oftentimes I think about the gift of being here in worship with you, and also being in worship with people from all across the United States. And I think we are blessed beyond words, and I'm thankful. So Ron is going to lead us in a song.
I want to first point out that the Craigs have nothing on us Fergusons. They're all here in church together this morning too. Angela from Raytown, Rhonda and Sam from Overland Park, and Dwight and Dad from his new place also in Overland Park. I'm really glad to see you all. I'm so grateful that you do this. Thank you. And really glad to see Kent and JC as well. And number 62, I don't know what position she played on the football team, but she must have been good. So, to start out today, I'm going to ask you to stand and sing a stand-up hymn, which is not the typical just magnifying and praising God sort of hymn. This is actually a prayer. But I love this hymn, and I especially want you to pay attention to the chorus, which says, "Grant us wisdom, grant us courage for the living of these days, for the living of this hour." That seems to me to be the most appropriate prayer to go along with what we're focused on today. So this is hymn number 292, God of Grace and God of Glory, 292. And if you don't mind standing, if you're able, we would really appreciate that. Number 292. That Thank you. You may be seated. I would tell you to hang on to your hymnal, but the next song is not in the hymnal. Pam is going to put the lyrics of this up on the screen for us. But again, this just seemed like a song that begs to be sung on a day such as today. This is I Know Who Holds Tomorrow. So we're taking it from the Hymns from the Family of God hymnal. And I think Pam will get this up so that hopefully everybody can read this here in the room. And hopefully you can get that on your screens. You'll screen share this, I think?
No.
Or that you won't? So people at home won't get it?
No.
Wow. We'll have to send you some compensatory payment, folks online. We apologize. We're going to sing this for you then. I don't know about tomorrow. I just live from day to day. Let's see if we can pull this off, okay? Thank you. You did that really well. Good job.
I have a Facebook friend that I've never met, and he lives in Richmond, Indiana. And I know him because he is good friends with some other friends of mine. And he has spent his life, his name is Henry Freeman, and he has spent his life as I think they said he's probably one of the greatest fundraisers for all of Quaker institutions across the United States. He is very well known for doing capital campaigns and helping Quaker institutions fund their work, and so that's how people know him. And I did not know him, and one day I got a friend request from him, and so I knew he was a Quaker Richmond, and because of all of our connections in Richmond, I joined him, his Facebook page, and I have really appreciated the things that he's posted. One of the things that I think one of the reasons he befriended me is because he is, in his retirement, has decided that he is gonna be a craftsman, and he makes knives. This is a Quaker making knives. That makes a lot of sense. But people say that he has probably one of the best, he makes the best knives, kitchen knives, that they've ever known. And so he just has done an incredible job. And what he does is he finds old, really old wood and uses that for the handles. Well, Henry is making so much money on making knives that he said, I should have been doing this my whole life instead of just now. So he's really doing well. The reason I tell you about Henry is because just yesterday morning, he put a Facebook page up that I found just profound, and I would like to share that with you this morning. Henry says, I did not sleep well last night. Like many of you, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, I am fearful for our country and for our world. I am, however, even more fearful of something deeper and more personal. I fear the anger that boils up inside me and the temptation to see those with whom I strongly disagree this election cycle only in stereotypes and negative terms, blinding me to the fact that there is good, and using a bit of Quaker terminology, that of God in all of us. Perhaps more so than at any other time in my life, I believe that it is important to consciously take small steps to remind myself that healing takes place between human beings and nations only when we are open to seeing the good in others and the hatred and distrust that too easily becomes embedded in ourselves. One small step I have decided to take from this morning forward is to identify a friend or family member with whom I strongly disagree politically. I am then going to take a few moments to reflect on what I cherish, what I value, and admire in that person. Some days I plan to reach out to that person and express my appreciation for the positive attitude I see in them and their impact on my life. Other days I will not reach out, but rather dwell on the fact that acknowledging their contribution to making the world a better place is a small step that makes me a better person for doing so. If you would like to join me, please share in a comment, a positive word that reflects the value that you see in a person who may be voting in a different way than you and simply cannot understand or disagree with you strongly. No need to name the person or who they are voting for, just a word that reminds you and others of the good that can be found in our friends and our neighbors who this very election season see the world through a lens very different from our own. I thought that Henry's post was profound and a good challenge on this day that we're talking about being fearful for many things. The other thing that I found kind of interesting was Rhonda Rhonda Ferguson. She was telling me, she called me on Thursday to tell me about the conversation that she had with Delmer about moving to his new place. And she said that she told him, we hate to move you. We don't want to move you, but we feel like this is the best option for you at this time. This is a place that fits you better than the place that you were in before. And she asked Delmer, do you trust me? Do you trust me? And I think Delmer gave her the positive answer that, yes, I do trust you. And I think about that often in the things that we fear in this world, in our lives, and in whatever we're doing. I think we need to remember that we trust a God who is greater than ourselves, who is seeing it all. And I think God is asking us that a lot. Do you trust me? Do you trust me? So let's trust. And in the words of Walter Mills, let's remain faithful in the midst of difficult times. Thank you for being here this morning.
Most of what got sent out last night was drawn from the 10th chapter of Matthew. I'm going to read two pieces of the advice that Jesus gave his disciples as he sent them out on their first solo missions in ministry. I think they kind of stayed pretty close to home there in Galilee, but they had traveled around with Jesus for a little while and had watched what he did and had joined him in what he was doing. And finally, I think it's Robert Coleman is the one that talks about the master plan of evangelism. And he points out that Jesus did it for them for a little while, then he did it with them for a little while, and then he sent them out to do it on their own. It is the way that we progress in our Christian witness, to do that watching someone else, then doing it with them, and then finally being on our own. So this is what Jesus said to those disciples just as they were being sent out on their own to speak of his kingdom that is coming and that is already present. Starting with verse 5 in Matthew chapter 10, the 12 disciples Jesus sent out with the following instructions. Do not go among the Gentiles or enter any town of the Samaritans. Rather, go to the lost sheep of Israel, and as you go, preach this message: the kingdom of heaven is near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you have received, now freely give. Do not take up any gold or silver or copper in your belts. Take along no bag for the journey, or extra tunic or sandals or a staff, for the worker is worth his keep. Whatever town or village you enter, search for some worthy person and stay at his house until you leave. As you enter that home, give it your greeting. And if the home is deserving, let your peace rest on it. If it's not, let your peace return to you. Then he goes on to say, if you are not welcomed, leave that place and shake the dust off your shoes as you go. And there are, I think, theological lessons in that as well. In verse 17, he tells them, be on your guard against people because they'll hand you over to the local councils and beat you up. You are going to be opposed. He warned them clearly. You are going to face opposition. Be on your guard. Don't be naive and don't be foolish. Be careful, but just expect that you're going to be opposed. He goes along and offers other advice, and then he finally closes it with this. So do not be afraid of them, verse 26. Do not be afraid of them. There's nothing concealed that will not be disclosed or hidden that will not be made known. What I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight, for what is whispered in your ear, proclaim from the roofs. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather, be afraid of the one, capital O, the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from the will of your Father. And even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. In Rhonda's words, we can trust him. We can trust God to take care of us even in precarious, difficult situations. That's, I think, our calling about living not with fear, but living by faith. That's what I hope that you can take away from this today, at least. I thought of so many things as I was working on this week and was not able to put nearly all of it into what I sent out. But I do want to tell you just one story because I think it resonates with this overall topic. When I was about 6 or 7 years old, probably, we still lived on 4th Street. My sisters don't even remember that, but I'm sure Dwight does. We had neighbors that lived kind of catty-cornered from our house who had a son who was the age of my older brother, Steve. And that kid was kind of wild. He was a good kid, but he wasn't afraid of very much. He loved snakes, and he caught a garter snake one time. I'm 6 or 7, okay? Not had a lot of experience with dangerous animals. He catches this garter snake, and he came over to our yard, and he whipped that out in front of me and started enticing that snake to give me a bite or something, I don't know. Scared me to death because, the only thing that I had ever heard about snakes was in Sunday school, that the devil disguised himself as a snake and wrecked the entire human race. I want no part of this thing that Craig is, his name was Craig, by the way, his first name, not his last. I want no part of this. I started running. He started chasing me, and he was bigger and older and stronger than I, and he was going to catch me. But he was going to have to chase me all the way to Oklahoma before he was going to get me down with that snake. I was running as fast as I could. It's a wonder I didn't have a heart attack. I remember that so vividly because I was so scared of that snake. Well, then we get married, pastor churches for a little while, couldn't get into medical school, and started to sense God's leading to go and serve in refugee camps in southern Sudan. We'd never been anywhere. We'd never been east of the Mississippi River before. We were going a long way from home. We had no idea what to take. And I started shopping for snake boots because I heard they had mambas there, both the green ones and the black ones. And I did not want to get bitten by a mamba and sent home in a bag or a box. Snake boots are pretty hard to find, and they were really expensive. And I am so thankful the Lord intervened and did not allow me to buy snake boots to take to southern Sudan because I would have looked like an idiot. Everybody there walks around in flip-flops. That's all they ever wear. So you come in there wearing snake boots, and they're going, oh, what planet is this guy from? We did have some close encounters with snakes while we were there in southern Sudan. And this is part of what I send out in the essay. We felt so clearly led of God to do what we were doing, to be where we were sent, and to do the work that God had prepared for us to do there, that we just figured God is on the hook to take care of us. And we are not going to get killed by some dumb snake when we have come in obedience to God to help people who were in dire straits. And the Lord was faithful and watched over us. We can trust him. Little did we know that we should have been way more afraid of the human beings running around there than the snakes crawling around in the grass, because they were all shooting at each other, and life was pretty hard there. But I could not get that snake story out of my mind, and part of it was because I saw or heard, I can't even remember last week, The guy that started the Sojourners group in Washington, D.C., Sojourners Magazine, their editor, Jim Wallace, I think it must have been something that he wrote, but he simply wrote that fear is being used as a motivation in this election cycle. Fear is being thrown in people's faces right and left by everybody involved in the political process. It's coming from both sides. They want you to be afraid of the other people. And Wallace said, will the people of Jesus Christ stand up and say we refuse to live like that? We refuse to use fear to try to motivate somebody's vote or to try to validate their friendship or whatever. I was so thankful that Jim Wallace said that in the context of our current situation, because fear has no place. That kind of fear has no place in the lives of the followers of Jesus. You cannot help but experience fear. We're human beings. God gave that as a gift to us to remind us not to step on snakes when you find them on the porch like we did in Sudan. You step over them and you get out of there as quick as you can. We need to be afraid sometimes in those kinds of situations, but it does not need to be the kind of debilitating fear that controls us. It's just an emotion, and it's given to us for our good. When we start to allow our lives and our behavior, our choices to be motivated by fear, we are in big trouble, because that's the fear that Jesus says we don't need to live by. We need to live trusting him. Fear lurks behind all the anger, all the revenge, all the greed, all of the ambition, most of all the other destructive things that are so loose in our society. Fear lurks behind every one of those negative influences. We can't prevent feeling fear, but we can certainly choose to respond in love rather than fear. It was the constant message of Jesus as he traveled in his teaching ministry. Fear not. Don't be afraid. All the time he said that to his disciples. He now says that to you and me. The last thing, we saw a news report from Lebanon this past week. Pam and I both commented on this. We were just so impressed by the EMTs that volunteered in southern Lebanon, where all of these missiles are raining down and just turning massive buildings into rubble. These Lebanese guys were not hired to do it, but they had been trained and they just volunteered. It was like they say about emergency workers here, they ran into the fire. They are crawling in those ambulances that become instant targets of the jets flying over and the drones flying over. They were crawling into those ambulances and going to those piles of rubble and digging through all of that stuff, trying to find someone who may have survived. And they interviewed this one EMT, and he said, yeah, we're afraid. Yeah, we hear the drones buzzing overhead even as we're crawling up on the rubble piles. But he said, interestingly enough, when we remember that these are our brothers and sisters underneath there, the fear goes away. We are aware that we are in danger, but that's so much more important. Those relationships are so much more important. That should be an example for those of us who follow Christ. Yeah, it's scary. We are facing unprecedented stuff sometimes. But Christ's work, Christ's call upon our lives is more important. And we can trust him. He will protect us. The queries that we've added at the bottom of what was sent out last night are these. And this is just a Quaker family question, but most of you know what we're talking about. What differences, if any, do you see between worldly fears and Quaker concerns? Sometimes people are really scared and they say, well, I have a concern. We clean up our language and talk about a concern. Oh, no, I'm not afraid. When you know good and well they're really afraid. Is there a difference between the kind of fear we're talking about, worldly fears, and Quaker concerns? Number 2, which of the fears listed here on the essay, or others that were not listed, which of those tend to cause you the deepest trouble or the most frequent concern as Quakers? Number 3, describe a time when you witnessed God's love drive out fear from a person or a situation. That's 1 John chapter 4. There is no fear in love. Perfect love casts out all fear. Number 4, when fear strikes, what steps are best to take to invite and allow God's love to drive it away from your heart and mind? There may be a lot of other things that come to your mind as you think about the fear we are experiencing these days. I hope that you will feel free to share what you have learned and what God is showing you and teaching you, so that it can be a help to all of us who are here today. Please be faithful to listen for the Spirit's nudge and share as you are led. I am so grateful for you all being with us today. God bless you. Let's wait in God's presence together.
So, right before I joined meeting today, I was phone banking for Harris and had a small miracle. I was calling a gentleman, his name was Everett, and we were talking, and he was like, I was like, I don't know, like, about politics anymore. I'm just not into it. It's like divided. Everyone like is fighting each other. And I was like, yeah, just share a little bit more with me about that. I was like, yeah, I know how, I understand that. I know how that feels, and I just don't like you giving up your power because of that. Your ability to have a choice, and we kept talking for a while, and I was like, and it kind of slid into faith, and like, I don't know if I'm on the right side, but I trust God to make my actions good, and he was moved by that, I think, a lot, and like, I was like, you don't have to side with me. You don't have to be, you don't have to vote. I just hope you feel like it's your power and it's your choice, and you don't have to listen to these outside voices. And then Everett asked me where I went to church. I said I'm a Quaker. I was planning to join the Zoom at with Mom Winchester Friends meeting in Indiana. And it was the miracle I needed. I needed to know that, I may have not got a voter, but I may have recruited a Quaker. And that was a powerful thing. So it's a hard thing making the calls, but if you sit there and listen, you can be with people, and you can hear what they think, and you can give them a little more hope. I want to thank you all for sticking to me, even if you don't agree with me. Thank you.
Thank you, JC.
I guess I need to follow up on that a little bit, since JC is the one who chose this meeting for us a lot of years ago, and partly because we got here in time for the last 10 minutes of the service, and he was sure this was the right place to be, since he was, I think, 6, but he thought short was wonderful. But everybody was, there was a series of things today. One is Halloween, and I thought, you know, I've never bought anything for Halloween, but I've made costumes. He decided once to be an oil derrick for a Halloween parade and carry a big horn with him and play that while he was doing it. I don't know. It was a lot of work, but I don't know. He was okay with it. But we've done some fun things, but not mean things about Halloween. And I guess it's, you know, when you really think about it, it's sad that it has become as important as it's become, but it's still fun for kids if the day they get free candy. I don't know, that's fun. I don't think they remember anything about why. Maybe they learn later why. But I was kind of looking for a little bit of a costume type thing today, and I pulled this out and went, you know, it says 62 on it. That, I graduated in 62. I'd like it to be my age now. I never thought at the time I wore it before I'd ever think that would be good. But now I'm thinking, oh my goodness, it's also been 62 years since I graduated. 100, it's, you know, 24 makes, you know, you add them together. This gets kind of complicated for me because I don't do numbers like Kendra and her mother do, you know. But dream numbers I don't. But anyway, I decided, yeah, this is the year I could wear this because it has some meaning to me. But I hope I didn't scare anybody when I came in. But I even figured out that I had shoes that would have been the right thing, penny loafers. I have pants that look like pegged jeans that were very much in when I was in 1962. Everything that's old is new again. I have a pocket on this t-shirt, that every t-shirt had a pocket. I mean, but I didn't spend lots of money for just to entertain you, but I thought there was some meaning for me to do this today. But I feel like a lot of things, I think the trust in God is how we do not have a lot of fear over. I'm able to sleep at night and not worry about what's any of these things. Probably the thing that will make me not sleep as well is the time change. That thing always messes me up. But otherwise, I will do what I can do for the election. And what I've been doing, what's been happening, is just to ask people to vote. We're not, anything I have done isn't telling people how to vote. It's asking people, please vote. And I see also numbers going back, and I think my mother voted in every election she could, but if she had been just a couple years older, she wouldn't have been able to vote because women didn't have the vote until 1920, right? Mm-hmm. Well, that was the year she graduated from high school. She wasn't old enough to vote. But the next, as soon as she was, I think she had to be 21 then to vote. Anyway, just things. But we all live through a lot of things that are scary. And just seeing me walk in was probably a little scary. but trust and get a good night's sleep.
Thank you, Ellen.
This year, more than any other year ever, I have become acutely aware of a sense. I don't know if it's correct or not, but I get a sense that things in the world that are not making sense to me are the result of God working as we were forewarned. We were told that there would come a time when things would change rapidly, and it would be quite troubling times, and there would be a lot of suffering. And this has brought me into a state of doubt about voting. I'm not sure if I'll ever vote again, because like JC was saying, I begin to question whether or not I am acting consistent with God's will. I've often felt that we were always left with a choice between lesser evils. I never really felt like one of the candidates was really the champion of right, you know? And so now that the whole thing seems to come together in a sense that leaves me feeling like the last thing that I wish to do is anything against God's will. And my ways are not your ways. My thoughts are not your thoughts. This is what God tells us. So we can try all we wish to try to understand His will and His ways. But who knows? I mean, someone might, but I think if anybody does, they're just stumbling onto it. There's no real way for us to know. But when fears like this strike me, I almost always go immediately to Isaiah 26:3. You keep them in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on you because they trust in you. So I just trust in the Lord that come what may, it will all be okay.
Amen. Thank you.
I'm kind of combining this, and it's not the answer of any one of the questions, but one of the things that has always helped me, and I don't remember who told it to me or what it was, where it comes from, to tell the truth. But I have awakened throughout the years and places and not know exactly for the first few minutes what city, what state, even what country I'm in. I've done that on more than one occasion. And yet the person, and again, I don't remember who it was, it seems to me it was that chaplain, but he was the captain, but that's beside the point. You go outside and look at the stars, and every human that has ever been and who is alive today has looked upon the same stars, to include Jesus and the apostles. And you are connected to them at that moment forever. And the other one was that, when you realize that, you also realize you come from a long line of survivors. Everything that's happened on this planet, one of your ancestors survived, and you too are that survivor. So just get up, knock the dust off, and go out.
Thank you.
So when Quakers believe the seeing God in everyone, I ran into that when I was driving the Palestinian girl around, driving her, and how could I see it from a Muslim's perspective? And I battled that a little bit on what to do. And then that helped me being able to see God in everyone on how to deal in that situation instead of being judgmental. So I don't know, seeing God in everyone and how we cannot see it from somebody else's perspective, I don't know, it's because maybe we want to be right. Maybe we want to be the one that's on the side of right. But I like the Phil Gully line that always keeps me in kind of my thoughts and my attitude correctly, where he said, always entertain the possibility that you might be wrong. And when you entertain that, you lose that pride of righteousness and all of that, hey, I'm the one that's doing the right thing. And it helps you see God in everyone else like that, because, hey, wait a minute, I could be the one that's wrong here. And so it allows you to engage with people in a more patient way and a less, I guess, seeing it all my way, so, and that's just how I try to look at things a little bit. Like our son is superintendent of schools in Ohio, and talking to him about over there, they have referendums about decisions that need to be made where there's a lot of controversy. Well, they know how every household has voted the previous 20 years. They've got the data to say that house has voted Republican, that house has voted Democrat. They pull that all together. So they know in Ohio the only way to win and to be righteous is to change the districts. So I guess, our assumptions basically are our windows of the world, what we assume, and they need to be scrubbed off every once in a while and look at it from somebody else's perspective. And that's a hard thing to do, because we can't entertain the possibility that we're wrong. So, and seeing God in everyone, that helps me connect those two things together.
Thank you.
All right. I just want to say I've loved everything that's been said today. This has been a very enlightening day from everybody. As far as it comes to fear, that's actually something I've been working on here recently. I have conquered many fears in the short time that I've lived so far. Something that has pushed me through this is I'm at a point in my relationship with God where I don't doubt He exists. God is real. He's there. I would have to go so far out of my way to convince myself that He wasn't at this point. And I just, even in the worst case scenario, if this whole world were just to blow up, there's a life after this. There's a life way better than this, where the suffering is gone. I would think that the next life that comes after this would feel like returning home, and that gives me peace. As far as like fears go, like I don't fear dying. I don't fear death. And I'm not afraid of what's going to happen here in the next week. No matter what happens, everything's going to be okay. I'm more hopeful, more happy than I've ever been. And my relationship with God has everything to do with that. So I will say that as far as fears go, I do still have many fears. And I think one of the fears that I'm facing right now is that, this is going to sound really dumb after what I just said, but I'm afraid of talking to pretty girls. I'm afraid of intimacy and that connection, like getting there, having like that a deeper, more qualitative love with somebody than I've ever had, and then the potential of losing it. It's tied to things like long-held negative beliefs that I feel like I'm not good enough, or I need to earn, somebody else's love. So I have to reaffirm myself and trust that I just need to be patient. God's got somebody for me. There's someone there. So, and when I do meet that person, I won't need to try. It'll just be like that. But it also means I need to get myself out there too and really actually try to, talk to them. But yeah, I don't know. I just appreciate everybody here and everything that's been said. This is just a wonderful community to be involved in. And thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I just even when talking with girls, I just want to encourage everyone like to trust. Trust that if you're acting out of love and you're acting with God's, what you think God wants you to do, have the faith that God will make it right, even if it's not the outcome you expect. That's, there's no faith without doubt. I mean, you may not have any doubt about God, but you have always doubts about your actions, doubts about the world. Have faith that your actions will be justified by God. God will make it right for what God needs it to be.
The first step is your doubts in terms of the existence of God, but then after that becomes your doubts about your relationship with God and whether you're carrying out God's will in the way you ought to. And that's
but that's the thing that can cause us not to act with faith.
exactly.
And I think like I think calling voters has been a blessing to me, and I'm doing it for me. I'm hoping I'm also doing it in the way God would have me do it. I have another thing I really needed to share today because I've been thinking about my Uncle Roger a lot. And coming back to the parable of the sheep and the goats and the lion, I was in prison and he visited me. And he probably got COVID because he was visiting people in prison, praying with them. He also probably died of COVID because he refused to get the vaccine. I don't know. I have a lot of anger about him not getting the vaccine, a lot of love, and knowing he's one of the saints. Um, Different people I've met in this church who have passed on, they're the saints. They come back and give me hope. I'm sorry, I'm such a crybaby today. I didn't mean to be. It's just I'm having a lot of powerful energy, and it's the power of faith kind of overwhelming me. But thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sure you can hear my washing machine going in the background. I'll try to speak up. It's really interesting that this was the message that Ron decided to share today. Sam and I went to the 7:30 service at our church, and it was almost the same message, just a little bit different slant. So this is like hammering it home with me. Our pastor used several different scriptures, but one was Proverbs 14:15. The gullible believe anything they're told. The prudent sift and weigh every word. And the point of Adam's message today was the fear that we are all feeling in this election cycle and our responsibility to look at both sides and not believe everything that we see on TV, not believe everything on the postcards that come in the mail that inundate our mailboxes, not believe everything that we read in political text messages that we're receiving, and not believe everything that someone tells us that they heard. But it is our responsibility to weigh both sides and to trust God. And it's really interesting because JC just used that scripture from Matthew, and Adam used the same scripture, that as Christians, we are supposed to be the ones who took care of the hungry and took care of the thirsty and took care of the strangers and took care of the naked and took care of the sick and took care of the prisoners. That's our responsibility in all of this. And he ended the message with pretty cute illustrations. He pulled out a golf club and talked about playing golf, and he said he's not very good at it. And if he turns his club a certain way, the ball goes this direction and it's a hook. And if he turns the club a different direction and doesn't get it quite centered, it's a slice. But very rarely, he will hit that golf ball straight on, right down the center, and it's a beautiful sound, and it is a straight shot. And he said, you know, it's a good place to be in the center, where you are weighing both sides. And then he pulled out an Oreo cookie, and he said, by themselves, these two dark pieces of cookie, they don't fit together. They don't form a cookie, but you need that white frosting in the middle to bind both sides together. And we are called to be that icing in the middle as Christians. Some of us will vote one way, some of us will vote the other way. And the important thing is to trust God and to not believe disinformation or misinformation, but to follow what Proverbs says. The prudent sift and weigh every word. And I felt like that just fits so well with Ron's message this morning and what Pam had to say, that even in this fear, God calls us to be Quakers, to see that of God in everyone, right or left, conservative or liberal. There's good on both sides, and we are to be that center that can bring both sides together. And I just thought that was a really powerful message today that fit really well with Winchester Friends. Oh, Sam wants to say something.
And that's just one more reason you should eat the frosting first, because you have two opposite sides that you have a real problem.
Thanks. Oh, thank you. Kendra. Okay.
I just have a couple of observations. In seeing patients and in how many people I come across every day, and I even see this in my staff, to be honest, I think everyone's heart is just on their sleeve right now. Emotions are running thin, people are stressed, people are scared, and it has just really struck me that the littlest thing will just set people off the edge, and just tears or anger or whatever is beneath that. And I've seen it a lot lately, and increasingly so, I think, as the election gets closer. So just knowing that and understanding that, and no matter how hard the exterior someone might be presenting, understanding that it's probably very thin, emotions are probably very thin beneath that. So I think everyone's struggling right now. So that's one observation. And then something else that I've noticed is that it seems to me like Halloween decorations are getting a little scarier, a little spookier. I don't know if that's just my
Ellen. Ellen.
Yeah. Yep, Ellen. There we go. But I don't even know what that says about us as a society. I could hypothesize, but I had my nephew last night, my best friend's kiddo. He stayed with me last night, and I found this book that makes all these spooky noises. One of them's like a dog howling at night, and the book is really cute. The premise is basically debunking what these noises are. So one of the pages says, "Is that a wolf howling in the night?" And then you press the button, and then the next page says, "No, that's just a puppy practicing his bark," or something. And so it just, after reading that book at least 5 or 6 times between last night and in the morning, enough that he had it memorized, I just thought, man, if only we could see God's intentions, and they could be made that transparent for us. But just trusting that the things that we see and hear aren't always that surface level, that there's something beneath them, something behind them, that God's doing all for his purpose. So
Amen. Thank you, Kendra.
We are aware that we're a little past the top of the hour, but I am so grateful for the things that have been said, and I do not want to steal anyone's opportunity to speak. And forgive me, Bill Wagner, but I thought I saw you leaning in towards the mute button a little bit ago. Is there something that you were going to share, Bill? If you were, we want to hear it. We really do.
Pondering the passage from 1 John, perfect love casts out fear. The operative word, I suppose, there is perfect, or at least it's one of the operative words. If perfect love is required to cast out fear, I'm afraid I'll still fear some things, because I have yet to attain perfect love. maybe perfect has a different slant to it. Maybe it just means consistent, genuine love. But love then is the other really, really operative word. Yeah, we've been thinking about the election. It's been referenced this morning. And maybe there's some fear that the wrong side might win and we'll be ending up in a fascist government and so forth. But I guess for Christians, we're only called to love. Well, we're called for a lot more things, but at least we are called to love. And there is no word that so gathers up into itself all of the ramifications of what it means to be a disciple of Jesus than love. Love in all of its practical dimensions. Love in the household, spousal love, love in the family, between parents and children, love in the community, between leaders, garbage collectors, whomever, wherever. Love is the reigning word. Now, I guess my only thought is that if we can go into the next few days relating to people, relating to the situation, by love, by greater love, if not perfect love, I think we are safe to leave it in God's hands, because God has left it in our hands. So, love one another, friends. Love one another.
Amen. I knew we wanted to hear that. Thank you, Bill. Sorry for putting you on the spot. We're going to sing Freely, Freely in just a moment. It is number 447 in the hymnal. But is there anyone else who knows that you should have spoken today and haven't done so yet? I do not want you to leave before you have obeyed. I thought so. Rob, can we get the microphone for Kent? Hold on, folks. You don't want to miss this either.
I had an experience at work recently. I work at a health clinic, and I was eating outside at a picnic table. A few of us were there, and one of the people sitting there was a new nurse practitioner, pretty younger than me, I don't know, immigrant from Mexico, I think. It was our first week. And we were sitting outside eating, and we heard an accident. It's kind of near the highway where we work, but we couldn't see it. And I walked around, and I could see that there was a guy laying in the intersection. There were people around him, and I came back and I told her, yeah, it's kind of a bad scene out there, but there are people with him. I'm sure they've called. And there was a moment of hesitation. But then she gets up and is heading out there, and I think, well, I'm not going to let her go alone. so I did not want to get close to that. I thought I didn't think the person would be alive. It was a motorcycle had been hit by a truck. A guy on a motorcycle. And we got there, and she just kind of, I'm a nurse, took charge of the scene. I mean, I don't know if she saved his life, but I mean, she did some things until the EMTs got there. Decided he couldn't breathe in the position he was in, and asked everybody to help roll him over, and because everybody was scared to touch him. But you know, and then the EMTs got there and we went back to finish lunch. It was such an intense experience. But to me, I couldn't, reflecting on it, I kept thinking of the Good Samaritan. Which I just never have had been in a situation like that, you know, just moving, you know, we could have not gone, and I didn't do anything. I just stood there. But it would have been easy to say, yeah, the EMTs are coming or whatever. But it took courage anyway, and I could tell there was some fear for her, and I definitely had fear of going over there. But yeah, I don't know. It was impactful. I'm still processing it, but it was definitely this moment of that moment where you could turn back or not go or not step in, and it's not lost on me that in this, with some of the rhetoric that's out there right now, that it was an immigrant. Mm-hmm. Who, just like in that Good Samaritan story, you know, who stepped in. So anyway, that was just a moving story, and it happened just within the past couple of weeks. So to share it. Thanks.
Thank you, Ken.
I thought on that when he told me the story that she thanked him for going, and sometimes it's just being there. Sometimes when you feel like, well, what can I do to help? He definitely helped her to give her some strength to deal with what she was dealing with. So I think that's maybe a lesson for all of us too, when we don't feel like we have the skill, but we could still be a presence.
Amen. Let's sing together number 447, Freely, Freely. God forgave my sin in Jesus' name. I've been born again in Jesus' name, and in Jesus' name I come to you to share His love as He told me to. He said, freely, freely you have received, freely, freely give. Go in my name, and because you believe, others will know that I live. All power is given in Jesus' name, in earth and heaven, in Jesus' name, and in Jesus' name I come to you to share His power as He told me to. He said, freely, freely you have received, freely, freely give. Go in my name, and because you believe, others will know that I live. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, friends, for all of these things that have been shared. It was good to be together today. Thank you so much for your faithfulness and for these insights and for your sensitivity and obedience to the Holy Spirit. Guess I better get the microphone back over here where it belongs. Before we go, we do want to let people know what's happening around here this week and also look at some prayer concerns. So we will try to do this as quickly as we can. On our little calendar at the top of our page, it shows that tomorrow evening, the 28th of October, the last Monday of this month, is Ministry and Oversight meeting. That will be at 7 o'clock by Zoom or at the parsonage. So M&O members, please take note of that. On Wednesday this week, the 30th of October, it will be, as the last Wednesday of the month, Bread for the World and Fast Once a Month Day. We'll break our fast at 5:30 at the parsonage with prayer soup supper. And then we will have Welcome Class Bible Study at 7 o'clock by Zoom. The Welcome Class will be studying lesson number 3 in the Illuminate Quarterly this week. So if you would like to be part of that Bible study, you can talk to us. The quarterlies are still over on the table over there. We'll get you the Zoom link, and you're welcome to join us to discuss Psalms 33 and 47, 2 different Psalms that are the center for this week's discussion. So that's on Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock. On Thursday this week, the 31st, in addition to it being Halloween, we will also have choir practice at 6:30 p.m. and chiming choir practice at 7:15 p.m. Then the really big important thing of the week, next Saturday, before you go to bed, don't forget to change your clocks. You set them back by 1 hour, fall back in the fall, they say. And that way you can join us for worship sharing at 10 o'clock here on Sunday in standard time instead of daylight saving time. So please be sure and take note of that and try to remember. We'll send out an email reminder on Saturday next week also to remind people to set their clocks back. And just to note that November's monthly meeting for business will be on the 6th of November, in a week and a half from now. There is an offering plate over at the entrance to the parlor that is there to receive friends' contributions for the church's ministries. We are so grateful to all of you for the faithful way that you have supported the work of our church. Thank you for doing that. There's also a sign-up sheet over on the table over there by that red thing for providing Advent poinsettias to decorate the sanctuary during the season of Advent this year. You can sign up. They're $7 a piece. We're going to order those in about 3 weeks, I think. So we have a few more Sundays to sign up, but if you'd like to get that done today, you are most welcome to do that. And there are also 2 copies that I saw earlier of the current book discussion group's book. They are over there on the table. It is the book called Lula Dean's Little Library of Banned Books. So if you would like to read along with the reading group, please pick one of those up or talk to Pam. She can give you more information about it. Those are the announcements that are most important to make today. On the prayer concern side of our sheet, Becky Edmonds has been with us this morning. We're so thankful that she is in a good place over in Muncie, recuperating after her hospitalization for treatment of severe infection. Please pray for her and for Nate and for their future plans. They are in a process of making some changes, and I know they will appreciate your prayers for all of that. I don't think Charlie Boyd was able to join us this morning, but he was there in the house where Valerie is anyway. He was released from the hospital this past week after a long time, more than 2 weeks in the hospital, I think. Please pray for Charlie as he continues recuperating there at home after that lengthy hospitalization for treatment of some autoimmune illness. Sharon Reinard, as far as I know, still has not received a date for her heart valve replacement surgery, but she is ready to go, and when they call, she will come running. So please pray for Sharon and also for Terry as they wait for that procedure. We are so thankful that she's going to get to put that behind you and move on in good health. Pray for Keith Kendall, who is still in the medical unit at Friends Fellowship receiving therapy after his long illness. And pray for Megan Kirkpatrick. Marcia told me this morning that not much has changed in Megan's situation. Still recuperating after her very severe injuries in a July auto accident and awaiting further therapies after her body is able to heal up and be strong enough to actually do the therapies. So pray for all of those. In addition, pray for those on our cancer list. Cheryl Thomas, who is the Growth's daughter in South Carolina. Marvin McFarland is Cleo's brother in Arizona. Carolyn Dwiggins is our friend in South Carolina. Doug Baker sent a request this week to add this name to our list, Jenny Bickle Renaud. I'm not sure how, it's a French name, hyphenated French name, but it's Doug's friend in Michigan who has recently had a recurrence of colon cancer and is now taking chemotherapy in Detroit. He asked that we pray for her. She's a 50-year-old, much too young to be fighting these battles. Please pray for Jenny. Pray also for the Edmonds niece, Leanne Kennedy in Muncie, and Trudy Wells, a friend of the McFarlands, and anyone else that you know who is in a struggle with cancer. Please continue praying for those who are dealing with COVID and for all the medical caregivers who are trying to put a stop to the surge and take care of the patients. Pray for those all across this country who have been harmed by these natural disasters and some unnatural disasters as well. The hurricanes and the flooding and the tornadoes and the wildfires and all the rest. People all around the world also dealing with those climate change circumstances. Ask the Lord to be with them and strengthen them. Especially in context of today's discussion, please pray for friends all across this country for this last 10 days or so of this election cycle, that God will intervene and prevent violence and harm from taking place. And pray for peace in a shattered world where so many people are afraid and so many people are being harmed. Those are our lists today. Very quickly, we will entertain others if you have an urgent concerns you'd like added to our list. In the room, wave your arm. Online, you'll need to unmute.
My friend from college, Carla Hayes, has been diagnosed with cancer in her lung. So please hold her in the light.
Thank you, JC. We will add her to our list. If you think of things later, you are most welcome to phone or email those to me, and we'll be sure and get them on the list that goes out tomorrow. For just a moment, would you wait with me in God's presence and hold these things close to the Lord's heart? Let's all pray together. Thank you, Father, for this gathered meeting today. Thank you for the truth that has been shared, for these experiences that have been shared, for the learnings that we are all making in this complicated time. Thank you for those who have been willing to share them with others to help them. We are so grateful for all that you have already done for us, but we turn to you once again with this long list of concerns and ask that you will, in every case, make your presence known, make your love and your power known, and you will exercise those things in ways that bring help to our friends for whom we are praying today. We commit them into your care in absolute trust that you know what to do and the best way to do it, the right time to do it. We also commit them to you with the expectation that you will show us if we should get involved in some tangible way. By your Spirit, please prompt us to pray and to act in ways that will agree with your best intentions in each of these situations. We thank you, Lord, that you are so loving and so good and so kind. We thank you for this time together that has been a blessing to us all. Let that blessing rest upon this faith community. Help us as we go from this place to be recommitted to being your ambassadors to a world that desperately needs to know you in this precarious time. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen. under his wings, safely abiding together forever. Amen. Thank you, friends, for being with us today. The Lord bless you, everyone. Go in peace. Have a wonderful week. You're at liberty. Thank you, friends here in the room as well.